dance and I don't feel alone. I wanna go to the sea again.
Mabrika, everybody. That means welcome in Taino, and welcome to the last episode of All About Aphrodite. And this episode doesn't necessarily cover any specific topic. It just covers a wide range of different correspondences that go along with Aphrodite that I couldn't necessarily fit so easily in any of the other categories. So I just decided this last video would kind of be the everything else video. So if you see me looking off, it's because I'm looking at my computer. So moving right along, first I wanted to talk about numbers that correspond with the goddess Aphrodite. And those numbers are 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. Now, I know that every person has their own perspectives. Everybody probably has a different number that they feel is associated with Aphrodite that resonates with them most strongly. Number 4 is considered her birthday. She was born on the 4th day. And Aphrodisia is a holiday that was celebrated in her honor. It is on Hekatombeon, the 4th in the Attic calendar, which falls between July and August in the Gregorian calendar. And that number also corresponds with the planet Mercury, and Mercury, or Hermes in the Greek tradition, were considered one of her consorts. The number 3 corresponds with the planet Mars, or Aries, another consort of hers, and it actually corresponds with Athena's birthday, and it is said that Athena and Aphrodite are, just different aspects of the same divine feminine energy, triple goddess, great spirit, whatever verbiage you prefer. But the number 3 also corresponds with 2 becoming 1, which, it is a matter of love and of sex. But it also corresponds with the love triangle, which Aphrodite is very famously considered to be a part of because, she's married in Greek tradition to the god Hephaestus, but she is constantly having other people as lovers or consorts. So the love triangle, or the number 3, which, corresponds with the 3 sides of the triangle, can correspond with the goddess Aphrodite as well. Then you have the number 5. And what I found to correspond with her as far as the number 5 is that it represents perfection of the senses as well as the nuptial number of love and union. And I cannot remember what website I found it on, but feel free to further research this for yourself. But apparently Venus years are completed in groups of 5. And of course, the planet Venus is very strongly associated with the goddess Aphrodite, Venus being the Roman version of the Greek goddess. The number 6 is also very strongly correlated with the goddess Aphrodite because the number 6 in and of itself is a number of pleasure. It was turned into the devil's number by Christians because of the fact that it was the number of pleasure, and because pleasure was considered taboo, it was considered sinful, it was considered bad, blah, 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 blah. So there you have it. But the number 6 corresponds with the lovers in the tarot deck. And with Artemis's birthday, she was born on the 6th day, and Artemis, just like Athena, is considered an aspect of the goddess Aphrodite. Artemis, Athena, and Aphrodite being considered the aspect of the same, feminine entity, feminine energy that we see whenever we think of deity. There's the Lord, there's the lady. And Artemis, Athena, and Aphrodite all are representative of the lady. So not only is it Artemis's birthday, the 6th, but the flower of Aphrodite, if you Google it, it has 6 petals. So I thought that was worth noting. The number 9 is also corresponded with her because she is considered in some views as the 9th Olympian. In some perspectives, she is actually older than the Olympian gods. She is considered a Titan. In other perspectives, she's even older than the Titans themselves. She, predates all of them, especially when you look into some of her deity correspondences from the previous video that I made, some of the more ancient deities like Inanna. And I believe that one of the, I'm trying to think, I can't remember the name of the specific society and or belief system, but she was in one version of her worship worshipped as a bird deity. And I can even go ahead and in just a moment you'll see the picture that I'm talking about that kind of brings that a little bit, that kind of makes more sense of what I mean by a bird deity. So I'm just going to pause for a second. Okay, so the number 9 also corresponds with water, which of course she is very strongly associated with water, and it also corresponds with the planet Neptune or Poseidon, who is again associated with water. And in the deity correspondence video that I did, there's also the Archangel Gabriel and his number or her number, depending on whether or not you perceive the Archangel Gabriel as feminine or masculine. The number that corresponds with Gabriel is also the number 9. So that was worth mentioning in my opinion. Now that we're going past the numbers, the Taurus is associated with the goddess Aphrodite as well as Libra. They are both Greek zodiac signs that correspond with her and or the planet Venus. And then you have Friday is corresponded with the goddess Aphrodite because Freya corresponds with her as far as deity correspondences go. And Friday is originally Freya's day, so there you have it. April is the 4th month of the year, and that month corresponds strongly with her. The Lovers is the 6th tarot card in the major arcana, and that, for obvious reasons, corresponds with the goddess Aphrodite. Now, there are 3 holidays that can correspond with the goddess Aphrodite, and that's Imbolc, Beltane, and Ostara. Imbolc being traditionally associated with the goddess Brigid, but thanks to Valentine's Day, many gods and goddesses of love and fertility, such as Aphrodite, are honored at this time. Imbolc or Imolc means milk and cleansing and can be attributed when one considers Aphrodite as a mother or nurturer. And it brings to mind the statues of Aphrodite breastfeeding the god Eros or Cupid, depending on whether you're looking at the Greek or Roman version. Mary breastfeeding Jesus, Isis breastfeeding Horus, or a lot of these other Madonna-like images, which if you look up the Madonna, it's Mary breastfeeding Jesus is what comes to the forefront of most people's minds because most people tend to be Christian. So Beltane is associated with her, and I feel that this is the holiday that's actually most strongly associated with her because it represents the peak of spring, the fire goddess, and the beginning of summer, the water goddess, which, she was initially considered a solar deity. Now she's more worshipped as a lunar deity, but that the fact that it's fire, right there in the spring is what brings to me the connection between Beltane and the goddess Aphrodite, because in the spring that's when everything is fertile, that's when all the animals are getting ready to make babies and stuff. So that's why I feel Beltane is most strongly associated with the goddess Aphrodite, because on May Eve the sexuality of life and the earth is at its peak, and abundant fertility on all levels is the central theme. So it makes sense that it would go along with the goddess Aphrodite because the goddess Aphrodite is the goddess of love and fertility. So, and abundance as well. And can be, a more prosperous financial kind of abundance. Ostara is also associated with her to an extent because it's a time of celebrating planting in the new crop season. It's the rebirth metaphor. The March hare was viewed as a major fertility symbol, tying back into Aphrodite being a goddess of fertility. And it's a species of rabbit that's nocturnal most of the year, but in March, when mating season begins, there are bunnies everywhere all day long. The female of the species can conceive a second litter while still pregnant with the first. I'm so glad I'm not a rabbit. And it is common to use this time to free yourself from things that hinder progress. And I feel that goes along with the goddess of Aphrodite because she is a goddess of what's the word I'm looking for? Sovereignty. She's a goddess of sovereignty, of the self, of, freedom, of being free to do what it is that you feel like you need to do. So that's why I feel Astara can also correspond with her. But Beltane, being in the spring, the peak of spring, I feel is the most strongly associated with her if I had to pick one of those three. Sun or fire is also associated with her because they are early goddess symbols, and that can be attributed to wands or scepters in the tarot because those are fire symbols. Then water, or cups or chalices, because she is a water deity. She was born of the sea foam that came from Uranus' severed member, so that only stands to reason. She's also associated with aphrodisiacs, go figure, right? Oysters, ginkgo, dittany of Crete, those kinds of herbs in which that are considered aphrodisiac, or and not just herbs, because an oyster isn't necessarily an herb, but aphrodisiacs are associated with the goddess Aphrodite. I mentioned in a previous video about sirens and succubi, vampires, mermaids, all of those kind of mythological beings that fall into the femme fatale archetype. This woman that is beautiful but is not necessarily good for your health. So that also corresponds, in my opinion, with the Amazon women. From my understanding, these are women who are strong, powerful, beautiful women. And I feel like that's the kind of woman that Aphrodite is very much fond of. And it also brings to mind some fictional characters like Wonder Woman and Xena Warrior Princess. So I figured I'd go ahead and mention that. I am a Xena fan. I grew up watching Xena, loving Xena. She, other than my mom, Xena Warrior Princess is my hero. I'm not gonna lie. You have the waxing and full moon that correspond with her. The full moon, being indicative of prosperity, romance, and fertility, and the waxing moon of growth, attraction, luck, and love. So those are all things that correspond with her. The girdle corresponds because there was Hephaestus as her husband. Even though she was already gorgeous and irresistible, he decided that he would make her a girdle that would make her even more gorgeous and irresistible. Why? I don't understand. So, and that's actually something that the goddess Hera borrowed from her so that she can keep Zeus from wandering. Then there are mirrors that correspond with her, and mirrors are not just a symbol of pride or vanity. They are connected to beauty and the imagination, and they also show a connection to secrets, both the hiding and the revealing of them. So I thought that was worth mentioning, because a lot of times when you see the image of Aphrodite looking at herself in the mirror, you think, oh, she's full of herself, she's so vain, and that's not necessarily the case. The white rose corresponds with the goddess Aphrodite, specifically Aphrodite Urania being pure love, and again with the archangel Gabriel, who corresponds with her in the Christian traditions. Then you have some nicknames for her. One being the Lion of Heaven, and that is actually something that corresponds more strongly with her via Inanna and Ishtar, who happen to be pretty commonly depicted with lions by their side. The Star of Lamentation, and that has everything to do with the fact that Venus is considered the witch star, and it's also been called the evening and morning star, as well as the dawn star. And it also plays tribute to the fact that like Isis, when Osiris passed, she mourned over the death of her lover Adonis, who was a mortal man, and a lot of us know Adonis was one of the most handsome men to ever grace this earth, according to mythology anyway. And then I'd like to go ahead and end this video with some messages from Aphrodite as spoken by Hera's lion via Lucy Cavendish's Oracle of the Mermaids. And I'll link Hera's Lion's video in the description bar so that you guys can watch this video for yourself. But some of the things she said really resonated with me, and I really felt, yes, that is Aphrodite, 100%, without a doubt, that is Aphrodite. So I wanted to share. And keep in mind, these are not my original, statements or anything like that. This comes from what I watched off of her video. So, here we go. The first thing is that there is beauty in simplicity and honesty. The second is regarding reclaiming your freedom. that you are encouraged to remain free and find out for yourself what it is that you want. Aphrodite will praise and assist you. You're being reborn into your sensual self, and you see that you do walk in beauty. Many have seen you coming from afar and admired you. So this is coming into your own and not shrinking yourself and lessening yourself because you don't want to come off as full of yourself. You don't want to, have anybody think that you think you're better than anybody else. You don't want to have this holier than thou attitude come across. So a lot of us have a tendency to shrink ourselves and, not really claim our freedom and claim our beauty because, in a society that doesn't really promote strong women, we kind of have a tendency to just, okay, we don't want to step on anybody's toes. Don't do that. Anyway, so the next is reclaiming your authenticity. And it's about allowing your own sovereignty and your own freedom to take precedence from time to time. Be free and return to domestic life because it's your wish and your honor. So that kind of, resonated with me personally because, being married and having kids, after a while you get so overwhelmed with taking care of everybody else that you don't necessarily take care of yourself as much as you need to. And that's kind of a reminder that, hey, it's okay to be a little bit selfish every now and then. I'm not saying just say, screw everybody else, I'm gonna do me. No, that's not what I'm saying. You do still need to consider other people, but don't do so to the extent that you neglect yourself. Then the last two things are receptivity, self-love, and self-understanding. With regard to receptivity, be open. Quit guarding yourself out of fear of being rejected or taken advantage of, and let love in. And then when it comes to self-love and self-understanding, love yourself because of your flaws rather than in spite of them. That's not to say that there isn't room for change and there isn't room for betterment, but you shouldn't be so focused on making yourself better and being your ideal self that you don't love who you are at this moment. You need to love yourself right now, the way you are right now. Because who you are is beautiful. So I figured I'd end with that. Merry parts and Senko Kakona. Abundant blessings. Bye.